Now, if we look at Bernie's effort in building this revolution in the neighborhoods, we're going to have to be involved probably beyond the March caucus, probably beyond the general election in November. So tonight, let's begin thinking about being involved for as long as we'd like. Let's think about that we're developing a community right here tonight. And we're going to be working with neighbors in our neighborhood, in our precincts, right? So we're going to be the connection to building this movement. This never happened with Robert Kennedy or Ted Kennedy or Jerry Brown or Dennis Kucinich or Jesse Jackson, or we could go down the list, right? Of all of the candidates we've supported, where has their effect been felt in our community now? Where is the living effort? Now, Howard Dean does have a great group. People know Democracy for America that has come out of this campaign. But the Kucinich effort, the Jackson effort, all of these efforts have not gone through. But I have a feeling that we may be able to begin something tremendous starting tonight in this community by making a commitment to be involved to a greater extent. Now, to that end, I've been passionate, I don't know why, but I've been passionate around why conservatives have been winning in Appalachia. Why have they been winning in the South when we Democrats have been failing in areas that we should not lose? Now, I've been trying to find people who've been able to explore that or explain that, and one man can very clearly explain that. His name is George Lakoff. He's a linguist from UCal Berkeley. That's Lakoff. And he's been the darling of progressive thinking people. He has studied the use of language for years. The conservative use of language that's been effective, and the lack of democratic language that's therefore left us ineffective, right? So if you do a Google on George Lakoff, you'll find quite a bit of his writing. This particular piece is called Metaphor, Morality, and Politics. And Lakoff will inform us that we need to have a vision of where we're going, and we need to take action to move there, rather than being on the defense. We need to have an overarching vision. Conservatives have an overarching vision. Let's say I would like to speak in the way of using a frame. I could say, man, I'm really excited about Bernie because he wants to build a democracy of, by, and for the people, rather than a democracy controlled by corporations, rather than a democracy, rather than a culture that's oriented toward privatization and private property. I had a chance to introduce myself to Bernie. I didn't actually introduce myself to him. I just asked him a question after a particular lecture that he gave. It was a rally in Exeter. I said, Senator Sanders, I shook his hand. I said, Senator Sanders, would you say that the frame of your campaign is democracy versus privatization? And without a blink, he said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Democracy, that's we, of the people, by the people, for the people. The public sector, the public realm, public parks, public schools, public health care. That is all under attack by the conservatives who know where they're going. It's like when Tom Brady has a football, he's playing my Steelers. Brady knows where he's going. We Democrats really don't have a vision of where we want to go. But they know they want to go to privatizing America. Does everybody understand privatization? Undercutting the public sector. Right? So finally, since FDR basically, the Democrats have tried to do this coalition politics of disparate single-issue groups like labor unions, environmental groups. Who are some others that are part of this coalition of the democratic movement? LGBT rights, environmental, minority rights. So there are these disparate single-issue silos. That's basically been our movement. But rather, we may begin to study Lakoff, who says, no, start with a broad vision of a democratic society, let's say. And you move from that place of building a caring, ethical society as our moral imperative versus a society based on greed. Privatization, we would agree. Supporting the public sector and the public realm, all of us, a democratic culture of, by, and for the people that supports all of our national treasures. Our national treasures around here are the East End Park, Willard Beach, USM, public schools. They're all being attacked consistently with the vision of the conservatives, right, to unravel our national treasures. And I've thought about us celebrating our national treasures. And there's various ways that we can honor our tremendous public realm and bring in our universities and bring in our hospitals. So we are actually getting to the roots of building a healthy society where we will have such a strong orientation toward trying to band-aid the effects of corporate capitalism, which is what environmentalism tries to do. Women's and gay and lesbian and transgender rights, again, they're trying to answer the problems of our corporate economy. But rather, we're going to build, and my hope, Bernie is calling and leading us to build a movement for a more just, productive society. And that may be where I would love to explore with you over the next several Tuesdays. If you would like, you could take down my email and we can begin to explore the dynamic vision that we explore why conservative language works in Appalachia and why we don't have language in Appalachia. We really don't have language in a lot of the country. So I'll pass out actually. This is a sheet of 12 initiatives that Bernie believes in, and you'll see that each and every one of them depends upon good, effective democracy. Democracy for all of us. That's the overarching vision that we can't have, don't we? That's why Bernie said, when I asked him, when you say your claim is democracy versus privatization, he said, yes it is. Just like that. So, my email is OCW, that stands for Our Common Realm. OCW at earthquake.net. And if you want to pick up this idea about envisioning and framing, because you know, there's not a lot of people doing this, you know. How many people have heard about Lakoff's work or have heard about the Mississippi? Wonderful, good. So, if you want, you can just sit afterward in that corner or drop me an email. I'm really excited to work with anyone who would like to. It really can dovetail with what Bernie is going to do. Yeah.
Frederick, I appreciate your comments. I think one of the really unique ideas that you're sharing, I guess I wanted to emphasize, is that this is beyond learning. And I think one of the mistakes that we made is we get all excited about a campaign, a single issue, and then when it doesn't work or when it does, then we sit down and we kind of shut off. And what I'm hearing you say is that we need to be really clear about, like a 20-year plan. What's our vision for 20 years? And individual candidates will come and go, but the dialogue that we have among ourselves and in the precincts that we try to build will be around those. And it doesn't mean, and no single candidate will hit all of the points, but they'll all be somewhere to fit. Is that a fair way of saying
I
it?
think that was beautifully said. And I would encourage you to do the next conversation, the next discussion. But no, that's true. That's right, because if we build it strong enough, then we won't have a candidate in the 2nd district, for instance, running for Congress, who says, I am the better tax cut person than the Republican. Oh my. Have we lost a message from the Democrats? Not encouraging us to pay our fair share, or for corporations to pay our fair share, or to go to the even near the Eisenhower tax rates that Bernie is suggesting. But you really hit it, that we can build this for the long term. I think that's what Bernie wants us to do. That's so, yeah.
You know, when you were talking about, you know, the beginning of your conversation about why can't we win in Appalachia, you know, it's interesting. I listen to a lot of NPR, and I've heard people talk about how Trump being on the rise, and part of his rise in popularity and his message that's getting across to people is he speaks in very simple language, and it resonates with people. So people in those parts of the country that it just may be as easier for them to understand what's coming out of his mouth, and it resonates with them. So I think, maybe something that we can do is try to make a simplified message that gets to Bernie's points, you know, and speak in common language, and try to really understand the person you're talking to, you know, as we go out and we try to build a movement.
That's a real clear point, and Cynthia and I have talked about that as part of nonviolent communication system, and building that mutuality with the person at the door. So Lakoff understands that we're in a relationship one-on-one, and we can talk with them and have a vision of where we want the conversation to go, but we listen to how they may hear it best, right? Yeah, Seth.
I was a little surprised to hear you say that Democrats have built coalitions out of disparate groups, because that's been my thinking of how Republicans have functioned. I mean, bringing together the gun zealots and the religious fundamentalists and the corporate leaders, all of whom care absolutely nothing about the others, but band together only because a particular candidate will give each one of those groups what they want. So, I mean, I think Trump's success in part is divide and conquer, in that he is encouraging the growing divisions between people, and in that way, sort of overcoming a common good. And so, as you're framing it, what needs to be done, and you use the word democracy, is to talk in terms of common good, and then everything is sort of framed in terms of looking at how dots fit together within that common good, so that we bring, as you put it, sort of the disparate groups, we help them to see how their issue is actually connected to the next person's issue and all other issues. And maybe putting it in terms of democracy is sort of the umbrella vision, but the way, I think, a way to respond to what Trump is doing is to build communities rather than encouraging people to think of themselves as against other parts of the community.
I agree basically with everything you said, Seth. I think you're right, that we, with a vision, can start with that umbrella, and then, as you said, work within where someone's interests lie. And a conservative person would say, oh, I see therefore, maybe if the South Portland Council comes with some public funding, we could build a solar farm here. And we could have new jobs, for instance. You know, let's say, or another, you mentioned the economics of conservatism. Or maybe, and I think the equality of marriage bill here was very successful based on that personal one-to-one, finding that common ground. And I think actually, excuse me, I think